What is up, guys, and welcome back to F1 2019. Are you guys ready to go fast? Because I'm ready to go fast, and by fast I mean really, really fast, because we're headed to Monza, which is by far probably the fastest track on the circuit, because there's not a lot of corners that you have to compensate with your downforce with, and it's got some long straights. You see a little bit of rain coming in at the very end of the race, so potential issue coming in there to our race. Finally, those energy recoveries that failed last time around are good to go. So setup wise, we're basically going to be running minimal wing as possible and just kind of hang on in the corners. We're going to go ahead and, as we did last season, slap on the set of components that are all the 0% used, the totally fresh ones, because, well, obviously with all that speed, Monza is absolutely a power track. We're going to need every bit of healthy horsepower we can, and as much energy recovery as we can, because there are some heavy braking zones, but it's definitely outweighed by the amount of time you spend on full throttle burning that energy up. Luckily, we've had a few upgrades to our ERS recovery system over the last season since the last time we were here, so we should be able to run in some of the higher modes a little bit more consistently. But let's head out to qualifying, see what we can do.
The pit lane will be open shortly, which means it's nearly time for qualifying for the Italian Grand Prix here in Monza. And I'm here, of course, with Anthony Davidson on what has turned out to be a very pleasant day indeed. No weather to interfere, no problems on the track, so absolutely no room for error.
That's right, Crofty. It's looking good out there at the moment. Each team will have their own game plan for this session, and of course, once the cars leave the garage, they'll be under parc fermé conditions, so any last-minute adjustments need to be done right here and now. Beyond that, it's all up to the driver. Who can keep their tyres in the right temperature? Who can hit their apexes? No race fuel on board these days, of course. These are the fastest cars we've had in a long time, and it's right here in qualifying where they're at their absolute peak. Let's get started.
All right, so here we are on our first lap out in Q1 as we cross the line, hit that DRS, and watch the speedo climb. Cracking 221 miles an hour before we hit the braking zone into the first chicane, where we're doing about 50 getting through the corners, down to 46. So a huge braking zone, lots of energy recovered, a lot of heat into the brakes, but luckily we're right back onto Curva Grande next, so absolutely flat out, and again, cresting 210 miles an hour before we're hitting that next braking zone. That's even without the DRS enabled, so you can see what kind of ground we can make in a car with these wings taken totally out. Now, the one part where we really suffer having these low wings is the Lesmo 1 and 2 corners. Very tough corners to nail just right. You can be a little later than the 50 board on Lesmo 1. You have to be a little before it on Lesmo 2. Even though Lesmo 2 is a smaller corner, it doesn't turn as much as Lesmo 1. It's a little narrower of a corner, and unless you pitch it into the entry really well, you're gonna understeer right off the outside of the other corner. But here we are through the Ascari chicane, down the back straight, ready to hit Parabolica. Get that car turned in nice and early, get on the throttle as soon as we can, ride it way out to the outside, and then point a straight line towards that start-finish line. And that's going to be our first banker lap here in Q1. So here we are at the tail end of Q1, sitting P10 at the moment. Qualifying has waved the checkered flag, and now you can see just how much time you can gain if you nail Lesmo 2. We go from pretty much flat on our delta to up about 2.5 or 0.25 there. So we can pick up a good amount of time if we just get that corner very right, but it is a tough corner to get exactly right as we head into Ascari once more, and very careful not to get too on the throttle there. It's a deceptive exit to that chicane. It's one I brought the end around in quite a few times in practice, getting on the throttle just a little early. Now you can see here just how important Parabolica is. I did not get a very good exit, and you see we went from about a quarter second up to basically flat on our delta and picked up half a tenth there. So you really got to nail that corner there. It's not a lot of options to make up ground in a lot of these corners. You just got to hit it because most of them are onto long straights. But we are safely through Q1 into Q2. P9, not too worried about where we shake out in these sessions, just so long as we're in that group. But here we are on our Q2 outlap. We let the timer tick down to about 8 minutes to go before we headed to the track. I wanted to allow the track to rubber up through the first runs that everybody had in Q2, since we're trying to get through on these medium tires, but I still wanted to leave just enough time to do a couple flying laps on the mediums and then get in the pits and really quickly swap to the softs if need be there. So we're popping out on the on those mediums first to see if we can't put up a good time here. It's just a matter of getting them warmed up on the outlap. But here we are on our flying lap, coming through Ascari there. 6/10 down of the top time, so not in a terrible spot, but not particularly great. But when you compare it, we're up against a soft tire there. Not too bad, but Sergio Perez right now is the top time. I would be amazed if that held up as the top time for this entire session. But we get a good exit out of Parabolica here. We're going to send it across the line for our first one, and that'll get us P12. So I'm going just straight out for another flying lap. Just continuing the run there on the mediums because I want to try and get these mediums up into the top 10. So you can see we're a little better through the first sectors. 4/10 up there, about almost half a second up as we come through Ascari there. So that's going to put us in a much better spot. Nobody else is out on the track at this point here. They're all kind of resting until the final laps here to get onto the soft tires and do a final lap in there. But we're going to go ahead, again, exit Parabolica, but straight line the entrance there. Or straight line the exit straight to the line, and we managed to get it up to P6 there. So here we are coming out on our outlap on the soft tires, cutting the timer pretty close there. There's only 10 seconds till that checkered flag waves. A lot of other cars staying in the pits right now, so we're just kind of out on these softs as our banker, just in case a couple of the guys cross and push us down out of the top 10. But if we manage to get inside the top 10 there as we start to come around to the finish line, we'll definitely lift off and get there. But you see we're up a good 4/10 as we jump ahead to the end of our flying lap. Nobody else is crossing the line ahead of us, so we are P7 at the moment, so it's a good time for us to just kind of lift off, not stress the engine. We're just going to go ahead and park it right in the pits, not even set a time on these soft tires. Because otherwise we'd have to do a whole nother lap on the softs, and I want to keep these in pretty good shape for the final qualifying session. They've only got an out lap and about 2/3 of a flying lap on them, so they should have plenty of life left to give us a good banker lap in Q3. It's very different from the normal pit stop speed as the car's up, down. As we're getting loaded into the garage, everybody's a little bit more relaxed. Don't have to rush it so much there, but we'll throw the tire blankets back on and see what the results are of this qualifying session. See Lewis Hamilton at the top of the charts right now. That racing point of Sergio Perez is pretty quick, surprisingly so, in the top 3 of Q2. But here we are out on our flying lap, first flying lap of Q3 here at the very start. Just trying to set a good bang. And again, Perez is one of the first to set a real fast time in the session, a 1:20.3. So we'll see what we can do on our banker. Now this is on those slightly worn tires we used in Q2s to allow us a little bit of extra tire life for that final run, have the absolute freshest tires we can. And we did save a set of tires from Q1, so we do have a completely brand new fresh set of softs to use during the race.
We're top of the speed trap, 221.0.
So there's the effect of our arrow, the first in there. We're going to head out, and it says we have insufficient time for a flying lap, so maybe we made a mistake. I thought we had a good amount of time on our exit. It's only about, our warm-up lap is only about a 124, a 125 kind of range. And obviously the racing laps are in the 120s, or I mean the quality laps, but we got getting onto the track here, across the pit limiter line with a 1:29. We should be able to make it. Those liars telling me the wrong thing. Maybe. We'll see. But we'll crank around the track here and jump ahead as we finish our lap. And here we are, exiting Parabolica. Still 10 seconds left. So they're telling me there's not enough time for a flying lap left. And there's plenty of time. We're sitting P7 right now on the grid as we head out for our final lap. We're basically the last car to get a flying lap in here. We're going to hop ahead. We're purple through the first sector. We're a half a second up on our best through sector 2, so it's a matter of throwing a great run through Ascari there. We're now 7/10 up and really chasing down that top time of Max Verstappen, 119.8, and we're 0.7 up. Lose a little bit of time on the entry, but gain a little bit of it back. Had to lift a little bit, had to blend a little bit out of the throttle there, otherwise we're going to hit that curve, but we're able to cross the line 0.7 up on our previous best lap, so we'll see where that puts us. And that puts us on pole, not just provisional pole, we are on pole here in Monza.
And with qualifying complete, let's review our top 3 today. Oldtimer, Verstappen and Valtteri Bottas. Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow as we head into the Grand Prix. It's race day here in Italy once again. Monza, home to so many records. The smallest winning margin, for example. Do you remember in 1971, Peter Gethin beat Ronnie Peterson to the line by 1/100th of a second. There were 40 overtakes for the lead alone in 1965, and Kimi Räikkönen clocked a record top speed of 230 miles per hour here, just over a decade ago. So there's a lot to live up to then for all of our drivers today. With top speeds up to 215 miles per hour and an average lap speed of around 155 miles per hour, Monza's reputation as one of the fastest circuits in the sport is well earned. We have 11 corners on this 3.6-mile track, with the best overtaking chance coming into the heavy braking zone of the Turn 1 chicane. A warm welcome to Anthony Davidson, who's beside me in the commentary box today. Let's talk about Oldtimer. That was a great podium in the last race, so can they keep that momentum going this weekend?
There are never any guarantees in this business, but certainly the performance last time out would have boosted their confidence coming into this one.
It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Oldtimer lines up on pole position and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Weber, Hamilton, Antonio Giovinazzi and Perez, Russell, Leclerc, Vettel and Devon Butler, Magnussen, Bottas. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Pierre Gasly and Raikkonen, Sainz, Norris, Alexander Albon and Roman Grosjean. Stroll and Daniel Ricciardo fills the last spot on the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
You've done well to put it on pole, but we've still got work to do. Trying to cover the inside line off the start.
Well, here we are back on the front row of the grid in the top slot. Our first pole position since Shanghai early in the season. So our third total of the career since we got that one in Austin last season as well. Still not sure how we managed to set that one, but you know, not gonna take it bad there. So we are starting out on the medium tires there. That threat of rain at the tail end. So we are going to go long on the mediums, switch to softs. It's like last year's Monza. I'll be finishing on the softs, have plenty of time to run on it, but you never know with the weather. But here we are on the grid. See if we can get a decent getaway. We are on a harder compound, so it's not going to grip up quite as fast. You can see Verstappen already going by us. Lucas Weber is on the inside, and Lewis Hamilton now diving to the inside as we hit the brakes for Turn 1 here at Monza. We leave a little bit of space for Hamilton on the inside. Have to kind of back out as he's able to swing it around the outside of Turn 1 into Turn 2 there. So settle into Curva Grande, trying and getting on the throttle. It's going to take us a little longer to heat up these medium tires and get some good grip. But we've got a good bit of a run on Hamilton. Not enough to really stick our nose down there. So you're going to settle down. We've lost 3 positions though. We're back down to P4 at the start of this race. But I'm not super surprised by it. The mediums are tough to get off the line with.
Let's focus now for the rest of the race.
But we do have probably the best straight line speed in the entire grid. And George Russell has made his way through Sergio Perez, who has been a major threat in all the timing sheets in practice and qualifying this weekend. So if he can help us put a little bit of a gap between Sergio Perez, I mean, just like Perez was hounding us in the early stages around Spa last race, he has the potential to be a real problem around these power tracks. So the more we can keep him in our rearview mirror, the better. And if George Russell starts to fall off the pace of us, that's even better, because he'll be holding up Sergio Perez a little bit and starting to create a gap from this lead group to the chasing group behind us. But here we are working the slipstream once again. We're going to swing to the outside as Hamilton defends the inside into the braking zone. See if we can't get by him. We're side by side, rumble over. He kind of straightens out to get onto the racing line. Have a little bit of a front right to rear left contact there. Gets his car a little out of sorts. Same with me. I had to back out of the throttle on that one, so it allowed us to kind of go side by side and let that group catch up. But we're side by side into chicane 2, and I just have to back out of it. There's no good spot to make a move there. We're going to be fully down that area, so we're going to back out. That's going to cost us some distance as well, and then throw the extra weight a little wide around Lesmo 1. Not our best entry into that corner, but we've still managed, and you can see Perez has made his way past George Russell behind us. So we just got to keep pushing on, staying with this lead group. You can already see on the map real quick, you could see how far ahead Verstappen's already starting to open it up in that lead position. He got that second place start on the grid there and had plenty of run, but he is just entering Parabolica. He's already got probably a good 2-3 seconds on Lucas Weber in front, and then Lewis Hamilton. So we are one spot off the podium right now, but this is a race where I think the strategy has a good opportunity to come to us. Again, running that backwards medium to soft strategy. Give up a little bit at the start for huge gains at the tail end. And the other part that's definitely been helping out, as I've been in a battle with Leclerc so far this season, where, you know, coming into this race we're separated by 2 points on the Drivers' Championship. I have 2 fastest laps on the season, so that's running that backwards strategy has allowed me to get snake some fastest laps at the tail end of some of these races. So that's really, at the moment, that's keeping me from being in a tie with him. So the more we can run that and keep grabbing those fastest lap points, could help us build a little bit of a buffer for maybe a slip up later in the season, like we had, say, at Japan, where we lose a wing and have to come in early and make repairs and have to try and race our way back through the field. So kind of a little bit of extra insurance running that extra point. I know a lot of real world purists really don't think the extra point even necessarily matters, but I do feel like in my situation right now, it counts for something. Think of it as almost a tiebreaker in a way. But you can see Weber and Hamilton kind of squabbling in front of us. This time by, we've got a good shot at making a move on them here. So we'll get down the start, finish straight. DRS is enabled as we starting lap 4, so we're able to fling it back. Lucas kind of squishes us towards the inside. We pull a little bit too far to the outside in the braking zone for the ideal line. Gives room for Lucas to dive down the inside, and we're just going to have to go side by side through that chicane. And he's able to hang around the outside and keep that position back from us. We did manage to get by Lewis Hamilton, but we didn't quite make the double overtake like we wanted. But Lucas is starting to open up the door into the second chicane here, but he's on the softer tires, able to get on the brakes a little bit later. And we're just going to let him hold that position in front, not do anything too risky into a less than ideal overtake zone there. But now it's a moment where we've just got to kind of take a deep breath, hit our marks, not lose too much ground to Lucas, and also not give up too much ground to Lewis Hamilton, who is still right up behind us. You can see it coming out of the Scari there. Lewis Hamilton is absolutely hounding us. He's straight on the tail. It's taking me a lot of electric deployment and doing my best to stay in the slipstream of Weber to keep in front, so I'm almost certain that Hamilton is able to maintain more charge down that back straight than what we had to spend here. But now this time Lucas is not going to have DRS. We are right up behind. We're going to have a much better time getting by him, and this time we're going to learn something. We're not going to go fully to the outside. He's going to go for that inside line. He would have to really hug the white line, so we held a little bit more the middle of the track and learned from our last run through that braking zone to not make the same mistake once again. But this time we managed to get through him. We're sitting now P2, and Verstappen has already run off 5.8 seconds ahead of us, but we do set a purple sector 1. Obviously the DRS is very helpful there, and then not having to back out of the braking zone of the second chicane there really helped us put up a good time. But let's see if we can't try and chase down the pace that Verstappen has. So here we are, hopping ahead, lap 12 there. All these soft runners are pretty much diving into the pits here.
George is in the pits. George in the pits. We're expecting rain in around 10 to 15 minutes. Heavy rain in around 15 minutes time. 15 minutes. Dries seem like the fastest tire at the
And there you have it. It looks like the rain is not going to treat us the same way it did last season, where it only arrived on the final lap. The rain is going to be coming rather soon in respect to the race. It's said about 10-15 minutes, so around this track that's only about 7-8 laps. So we're hopping ahead lap 14. We're deciding to make an early pit stop onto the softs. So the mediums weren't going to make it all the way to the rain in a very safe way, so I decided to try and maximize my soft tire running, try and get a good 6 or 7 laps of dry running on those softs before the rain arrives, because they'll be definitely quicker than the mediums at this stage. And I don't think that we'd be able to stretch the mediums all the way past that. I mean, the mediums would have to be really howling. I think if we're running them already worn mediums about 21, 22 laps into this race, which I think is around the time that the rain is scheduled to arrive according to that 10-15 minute estimation. But Verstappen was able to get back out ahead of us, but we are able to hold off, stay in front of Perez, who has already made his stop. Basically, everybody has made their stops. I'm not sure what the medium runners have done back at the grid yet. They might be trying to long run it all the way to the rain and mix it up that way. But we've got a good almost 6 seconds up on Perez there, who is pretty quick, and Verstappen is just kind of out way ahead. But hop ahead, lap 21 now. Haven't really made a whole lot of headway on Verstappen. Weber has gotten through Perez. We're 6.4 seconds back on Verstappen, but now you see the rain arrives. And one thing to remember was when he told us that the rain was coming, it was going to be heavy rain. So I expect the track to get wet pretty quickly. So you can see I'm already making the adjustment to prepare for intermediate tires. The next time we come in, I think I'm only going to do this one more lap. I was kind of watching to see if Verstappen would dive in. Kind of want to mirror his strategy as much as possible. So he stayed out. I'm going to go ahead and stay out for one more lap here and see just how fast the track will wet down. But here's one thing that also happened last season at this Monza race was the rain didn't come until like the very last lap, but when it came, boy did it come, and those dry tires became like ice very, very quickly. So we're going to be taking some early braking points into a lot of the chicanes, really just try not to overcook the car, because it's hard to get a really good gauge on how quickly the track is getting wet when there's so many long straights on the track. I mean, flinging full throttle in a straight line, the car doesn't know if the track is wet or dry, and with the length of some of these straights, the track could get pretty significantly more wet but by the time you hit the next braking zone, and you step on the brakes and you've got no grip and send yourself straight off. So we're going with a little bit of caution in this regard, trying to kind of feel it out as we exit each corner before the braking zones and see if we can't grip up and see how the tires are behaving. But you see just how much less pace we're carrying through Ascari. A little bit of a wiggle there as we're trying to get on the throttle. Not a particularly safe run out of Ascari. So Parabolica, I knew at this point was going to be a very, very slick run through. So tip it in. You can see as we just understeered off wide, the back end is sliding around. I mean, there was just no grip when it came to hitting the brakes and turning into Parabolica. The track got wet very quickly, so diving straight into the pit lane here. Time to grab those intermediate tires. You can see Verstappen's just about finished up his pit stop already. So we are going to have quite a bit of ground to chase him down. You see he's headed just in the distance there, exiting the pit lane. There we go. The green wall intermediate tires are on now as we hit the pit exit line, switch off the pit limiter, and get on the throttle. Lucas was just diving in for his pit stop right as we headed out of the pits. You can see him heading out just in the distance there. So now it's time to really get a feel for how this track is going to behave in these intermediate conditions and see if we can make up any ground here on Verstappen, who is still he's just so quick. I mean, wet tires, dry tires on wet track. He just has so much. I mean, 11.8 seconds up now, and coming into the the lap before the pit, we were 6.8. So he picked up 5 seconds in a lap and a pit stop essentially. So he's just super quick. Lucas is almost 13 full seconds behind us. So lap 23 of 27 is gonna come down to managing that gap, making sure they're not outrunning me too hard on those wet tires. But you can see the amount of rain streaming down the camera there. It's almost not even Inter's weather. If it kept up like this, it could be full wets needed. But Inter seemed like the best tire. A little bit of oversteer on the power there, getting on the exit of Ascari. But it's just a matter of making sure we keep the car out of the wall. We lost about a half second there to Weber in the last sector split. But it's, again, just about keeping the car out of the wall, keeping the tires on the ground, and I probably aren't going to be able to chase down Verstappen. Cross line, yeah, 12.6 now, so he's picking up about a full second a lap on us. We just need to make sure that we keep the time losses similar to the cars behind us, and that'll get us home pretty safely in P2. Still 12.6 on Lucas, so he picked up 0.3 there.
The gap to the car behind is 12.6 seconds.
And just ease it through those corners. And we'll hop ahead now. Final lap, lap 27, coming out of Curva Grande into the second chicane. 18.5 seconds back of Verstappen there. So he's definitely run away with yet another race win, barring any mechanical failures. Lucas has gotten it down to 7.7 seconds, but it's not going to be quite enough. So a little too late in chasing us down in the rain there. We were, before the rain hit, we were making up some ground on Verstappen on the softs. So maybe there was a chance that a win could have possibly been on in this particular race. Obviously, I would have changed the strategy entirely if it was going to be a dry race the whole way through. I would have run those mediums much longer, probably only slapped those softs on about lap 18 or 19 and ran about 6 or 7 laps there. But Verstappen has already crossed the line for his win. We are hitting the brakes down into Parabolica for the last time this season here at Monza. Ease onto the throttle. Wait till the car is almost completely straightened out before getting fully on the throttle there. And then we're going to go ahead and cross the line. P2, another podium finish.
Thank you for all your hard work out there. That was a strong drive and a good finish. Well done.
So as they climb out of the car, the Red Bull team are ready and waiting to celebrate a thoroughly well-deserved win. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
Rain always has the potential to liven up a race and mix up the order, and they've taken full advantage of that to claim the victory today. It's always a bit of a lottery when the conditions are like this, but they've managed to stay on circuit and have come out on top.
The drivers are en route to the podium as we speak. What a fantastic win for the Red Bull team. They performed exceptionally today, keeping us firmly on the edge of our seats throughout the entirety of the race. Congratulations to everyone at the team.
And this time, Lucas Weber is up on the podium with us as we spray Verstappen down after yet another win by Red Bull. So that's definitely going to help him out in the championship standings.
And And now let's take a look at the driver's standings. Max Verstappen should be pleased with his performance, making gains at the top of the table. Now let's discuss, Ants, who would you say is a contender for driver of the day?
Daniel Ricciardo certainly impressed me today, an incredible performance.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. Red Bull take over as championship leaders. I'm equal parts exhausted and elated with this weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for the next one.
Hamilton finishing down in 5th gives Verstappen 15-point lead on him there. Leclerc finishing out of the points is going to help us out a lot since we did pick up that fastest lap point again. So now we're a full 21 points out ahead of him. But unfortunately also George Russell finishing outside of the points. Once again, not really helping us out. I mean, we're the typically the third or fourth best car on the grid according to the development chart. He should be at least in the points.
Amazing performance out there. I'm sure you're pretty happy with that. You must be happy with the result today.
Yeah, it's been a great day, and the car is actually in really good shape for the next race too. Definitely the durability is keeping up with us.
It's safe to say you're smashing everyone's expectations, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean the standard of racing from all the drivers has been really high this season.
There wasn't much between you and Lucas by the finish today.
I mean, he has a great car and a team behind him, but so do I. But it wasn't that close. I mean, he was still almost 8 seconds off.
How does it feel, sharing a Formula One podium?
Oh,
with
it's
your
amazing. I
old
can't
F?
thank my team enough for the work they've done to get me here. Sorry I kind of cut you off there, Claire.
Appreciate your time.
Sorry. All right, here we are into the rivalry breakdown. We're pretty much on the tipping point here, so definitely we'll finish off both of the rivals again. I'm a nice straight 5-0 against George Russell there, so now we're about to set up a new rivalry against somebody else other than Giovinazzi this time. I'm thinking we'll probably grab Leclerc since he's our closest rival in the championship hunt, and well, we aren't really going to catch Hamilton and Verstappen at this stage. Definitely not. But the team goal bonus taking over, I mean, that was a qualify third or better. It took a pole position to do it because the last couple of races have been unfortunate, pretty far down the grid as far as our qualifying positioning. So we managed to knock that one out in our last possible race. But I felt pretty good at coming into Monza about it.
Excellent result today. Finishes like that will look good on your contract reviews. On to the next one.
Yep, and now after Italy here, we're going to have Singapore. So we go from a very fast open track to a night race at a very twisty city circuit. So that's going to be a tough one for sure. A very big change in the way you have to kind of drive that track. But take a peek at the finished rivalries. We're sitting on 3,500 R&D points at the moment. I don't want to, become a dragon on his pile of gold and sit too much on it. So I do want to keep the car moving forward a little bit, but so I'm gonna drop a couple of them. This is the last weekend before we know what the development departments will probably be. We might find them out when we get to Singapore. So fingers crossed for that. But we're gonna go ahead and spend some of these points. It just feels bad sitting on them. So we grab a minor cockpit weight reduction upgrade there. Should help the chassis out a little bit. We are also going to take a look at some of the aero, probably finish off some of the either aero or powertrain, depending on what we want to take a look at. I was very, very strongly considering doing this ultimate energy recovery system upgrade. That could be a huge, huge bump, but 1680 points and 3 weeks to do the upgrade, it probably is a little too much time and a little more than I'd want to spend in preparation for a big development reset. So we'll go ahead and just grab the minor of the fuel combustion chamber there. Hopefully a little better fuel economy will allow us to run a little less fuel in the tank. A little less weight means a little more speed. We are going to go ahead and grab this front downforce, kind of keep the aero development a little more balanced, but that should move us up into a good spot here. So we have 2 ready for Singapore, and then 1 should be ready to go for Russia after that. But you see, Renault and Racing Point have taken some pretty big jumps in their development. Ferrari is really kind of languishing at this point, so they need some help in that regard as far as their development. But you can see George Russell still on 31 points. Not not a big haul for him so far this deep into the season. But we are kind of comfortably best of the rest in the team standings, and we're up to P3 in the driver's standings. So maybe this is a chance where we can start to run away with it, or Leclerc will be resurgent. But find out next time as we head to Singapore. Thank you guys for watching again. Peace.